Hey folks, happy Saturday to you. Saturday, May 15th, we continue our pastor's devotional following our FUMC CV prayer calendar where we're praying for all these different mission initiatives and organizations and ministries and mission work that's done through the United Methodist Women and the General Board of Global Ministries, which is our denominational mission sort of arm of the denomination. So today we are praying for the Susanna Wesley House in Baltimore, Maryland. Now you may know Susanna is the mother of John and Charles Wesley. John, of course, created or credited with being the founder of Methodism. But really, those two boys, John and Charles, brothers, did a tremendous amount of the work. And Susanna was their mother, and just a rich tradition of a deep faithfulness from this woman and a very strict kind of religious observance in their family. And so lots of things out there are named Susanna Wesley, especially ministries that care for women. And this particular ministry was begun in 1919 as a home for working girls in Baltimore. And so just like we talked a few weeks ago, there was one in South Carolina that we looked at, or a few days ago, girls that were sort of leaving the rural parts of the nation, moving into the cities in order to find work, and young and single. And so there were these kind of like boarding houses where they could live and live safely. And that's the way that this house was started. Now, for the last couple of decades, what it has been is a home for homeless women with children, and all sorts of reasons why they might be homeless. Maybe they were incarcerated. Maybe they're escaping an abusive domestic violence kind of situation, any number of reasons. That what's not important is the reason they're in that situation. What's important is how to take care of them. One of the greatest causes of poverty is single motherhood, women with children. So this ministry continues to reach out and to care for those situations and those women who find themselves in those unfortunate situations. And so we're thankful for their work. It brings to mind a number of passages that talk about in a number of passages in the Bible that talk about these sorts of situations. So I want you to turn your Bible to James, the book of James, chapter 1. And it's hard to find. It's all the way in the back of the New Testament, almost all the way in the back of the New Testament. So and it's just a couple pages. So search around, find that. This is the letter of James. This letter is written to a particular group of Christians. And it may not surprise you that the Christians were sort of warring with one another, Jewish and Gentile Christians, and Christians from sort of different stripes, about what it really means to be faithful. Well, you have to follow these laws. No, you don't have to follow those laws. And if you follow those laws, you're more faithful, or you're less faithful, and just around and around and around. So the writer of the letter of James writes this, James chapter 1, verse 26. If any think they are religious and do not bridle their tongues, but deceive their hearts, their religion is worthless. That's some strong words right there. Continuing on. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. So there's two clauses in there. One, unstained by the world, and so not giving in to the desires of the world and all of that. We understand that that still applies to us, right? The best kind of Christian is one who lives according to values of God rather than the values of our world or our culture. The other clause, to care for orphans and widows in their distress. Now, in their culture, orphans and widows were the most vulnerable. So I want you to think about that. We may not think of widows as the most vulnerable or orphans as the most vulnerable in our time, though they still are vulnerable. But what the point that they're making is to care for those who are most vulnerable. True religion is a sort of purity of our heart and soul and mind, and a an outward behavior that cares for the most vulnerable in our world. So I'd encourage you to think today. Who is the most vulnerable that you might be able to provide some care for? I know this past week we loaded up hundreds of backpacks and yoga mats that were donated by you, and took them down to the San Diego Convention Center, where they are housing unaccompanied minor girls who have been caught trying to cross the Mexico-U.S. border. Those are certainly incredibly vulnerable young women. No matter what you think about the immigration process or status or the legalities of that, that's a vulnerable group of people, and we sought to serve them as a church this week. And so thank you for those who helped with that. Thank you to all of you for thinking about who is the most vulnerable out there in your world and how you might serve them so that you too could have that pure sense of religion. God bless. Have a great day.